We are so excited to have Triad and True hanging out with us today. We've been looking forward to this for a really long time, chatting with you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us. We're happy to be here.
So I think Liv sent us one of your TikTok videos.
Yeah, a long time ago.
A long time ago. It was like over a year ago, long before I had TikTok, because I was like, I did not want to get TikTok.
He was a holdout.
I don't like social media stuff, but
yeah,
the video of you guys checking into hotel, and we died laughing because we experienced that, just like you guys, when we go in, and several times we checked it into our room, booked the key, opened the door, 2 queens, then we got to go back downstairs with all the luggage and.
Yeah, dealing with the confused receptionist, like, what? But there's 3 of you.
Oh, yeah.
So we absolutely love watching your guys' TikTok videos.
Yes. So fun. So
Thank
entertaining.
So for our listeners.
Yeah, we try to educate while also keep it entertaining.
Yeah, it's very
awesome.
entertaining.
Yeah, you're doing a great job.
For our listeners, would you mind giving us a little background, you guys? Tell us your throuple love story.
Absolutely. Do you want to start? Should I start? It more or less starts with Aaron and I. So we've been together since we were 18.
Long time.
24 years together. And it was one of those things, hetero, normative, monogamous culture, that you just find your person, you settle down, you do life. We thought we were having kids, living in the suburbs. It was a very sort of relationship escalator story and following the script. And at one point started to realize that we maybe weren't set out to follow that script, and got into the first learned that we weren't going to have kids. So that went out the window. Then I more or less came to terms or learned that I was bisexual and had an interest in also exploring or being with women. And so we learned about the swinging lifestyle and did that for about a decade. During that time frame, learned about polyamory and the ability to actually be in a relationship long-term with more than one person. All of these things, which were never even presented as options to me growing up. And so about almost 5 years ago now, intentionally set out to try to find more people to join one more person. We did have a specific sort of vision in mind, and created the dating profiles and got on the apps, and we're so lucky to connect with Kasey. She has her story that she can tell you a little bit more about, but
It was a match made on Bumble.
Match made on Bumble.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I saw that. Actually, I saw that on your social media.
Yeah.
How it all started.
Yep.
So was it the dating Bumble or Bumble BFF? Just out of curiosity.
It was dating.
Yeah.
It was very specific
Yeah.
that we were a couple. And
So you guys were intentionally looking to be in a throuple?
We were at this point now. We had put our profiles together saying that we were a couple in a long-term, very healthy, loving relationship. There was nothing wrong with our relationship, more or less me being bisexual and wanting to also build a relationship with a woman alongside Aaron, who's a wonderful man, would be awesome. And trying to make it as ethical as possible, trying not to come across as the unicorn hunters just for using someone else as a toy for our pleasure.
Right.
Yeah.
Mentality, but really saying that we'll start over as 3 equal people coming in to build a life fresh and new all together. And
Yeah.
So was there a decoupling process with that? And if so, how did that look for you guys?
it was, as much as we had done some research and education and learning and being part of all of the different groups and listening to a lot of podcasts and trying our best, you still don't know what you don't know until you're there.
Yeah,
And
right.
A lot of early lessons learned, even simple things of, we always went to the gym at 6 a.m. and Kasey wants to sleep in. Why should she have to conform to
Right.
I'm not a 6 a.m. gym person.
The gym for individual. So it was, and a lot of understanding that at any given point, this might not work, and
Yeah.
this may not want to continue. And what happens if 2 in any combination decide something different? And
Yeah.
conversations.
Do you guys feel like you knew what you were getting yourselves into at the beginning, even with all the research that you've done in advance?
I don't think so. Like, I thought I was a patient person, but couples on a little more patience needed. I mean, it's a constantly evolving thing, at least for me. So I think to have expectations and to say this is how it's going to go, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So for me, it's more so just learning as I go.
flexible, adaptable.
That's right.
Yeah. So Kasey, I want to hear from. Go ahead, and then I want to hear your version as well of like coming into the relationship.
Yeah, totally. And that's actually where I was about to go. So I really kind of I guess. So I was raised in a very kind of religious, conservative type of community.
Boy, we hear that story over and over again.
It's a thing.
And if I understand right, you weren't raised in like a Christian home per se, but your community was very conservative. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, my parents are religious. Like I was raised in the church, but not like any of the like kind of extreme types. I was baptized in the whole thing, and I went to church a lot, but it was more, I mean, my parents are pretty laid back when it comes to religion. So it was definitely more I grew up in Missouri. And so it was definitely more that influence of, kind of the Bible Belt. And so even just looking around, like I knew very few, gay people. I knew no one who was, trans or anything like that. And so it was definitely kind of, you grow up in that kind of mindset and that prescribed, like you look around and this is what is reflected back to you of, I was going to get married to a man. I was going to have some kids, like do the whole thing. And, I think it was whenever I moved away from Missouri for the first time in my early 20s that I was like, oh, like there's a whole world out here that's not Missouri. And I think at that point, I kind of started to accept the fact that, maybe I wasn't so, prescribed as being straight or, being monogamous. And then I think even just a few years after that, it was really whenever I moved to Colorado, I kind of switched my dating apps. I had a bad relationship end with the dude. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to switch my apps to women. And we're gonna see what happens. And that was, I really fell into, it was really interesting because I actually matched with a woman who was married, and she was like, yeah, like this is what we do. And it was like going into it, even though it was very secretive. And there was a lot of shame at that point with it because it was so outside of the norm and really my comfort zone that I was like, well, I'll meet her. And I know that I like men already. So like, we'll just like maybe see, and then he can be like the buffer. Like this was all going on in my brain. I didn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't tell any, I didn't do any of the safe things that you're supposed to do, but I finally ended up meeting this couple, had this fantastic kind of experience. And I think that was whenever I was like, oh, no, okay, like I'm into this. Nice. And so I was in some of the, kind of Triad or Throuple or really non-monogamous dating apps like Field. And I ended up meeting now ex-partners who we really fell into a Throuple Triad type of situation. Didn't know really much about it. It was, you look back on it and we did so many things wrong, and it ended in like a ball of fire that I was like, I'm done with this. I'm never doing any relationship like this ever again. And so I went back to trying to date monogamous and was really having just issue with that. Like I just didn't, it was so, I was like, oh, like even whenever I was dating someone monogamously, I was like looking for other people. And so finally it was just, I came across Rachael and Aaron's profile on Bumble and I was like, they seem interesting. Maybe I'll try again, but I'm going to be like really upfront that we're going to move slow and like, we're really going to like put in the effort and all of this, which obviously resulted in us deciding to move in together.
Not moving slow.
we moved obviously really slow.
Yeah,
we did put the effort in, and it was a lot of very serious, transparent conversations. What does everyone want? How's everyone comfortable? And even then, like being like, all right, we're going to give this a go. There was still that, several months adjustment period of, kind of falling into a regular routine. Granted, it was COVID times at that point. So we moved in together and COVID hit like 2 months later. Yeah. So then we were it was like, you figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, backing up too, Rachael mentioned it briefly, but we were living in Mexico. Rachael and I were living in Mexico at the time, visiting family in Colorado when we met Kasey. So she didn't exactly know like, who are these people?
Yeah.
I was half convinced they were drug dealers.
Yeah.
That's great. So watching your videos and TikToks, Instagrams, everything, it's very clear how much chemistry there is between the three of you. But Kasey, was there anything in particular that really stood out about both Rachael and Aaron that made you very confident, like, this is something special. This relationship is something different? Like, what was it that you were ready to move in together 12 weeks later?
12 days.
Oh, 12 days. Okay, 12 days.
It was wild. And then we ended up actually moving in together after a few months because they had to go and settle up in Mexico and then actually moved back. But I think something that really helped us early on was the fact that we really prioritized building our separate relationships. So, you know, even like in the first few weeks, like I was going out with Aaron alone and we were like going to the breweries and we were, you know, discussing football and watching football and like all of these things. And then, you know, on the flip side, it's like Rachael and I would like hang out in Snuggies and like, you know, just all of those things. So I think that was really, it gave me a chance to fall in love with them very quickly, but individually, instead of that pressure of it's me versus them. Do I like them as a couple, like as a unit? It was more like, okay, it's me and Aaron, and then it's me and Rachael. And like, how does that develop? And frankly, like things don't always develop at the same rate. It's like, it could be, you know, with some, it's really hard and fast with one partner. And the other one, it's maybe a little bit slower burn. And so that was like, you know, kind of adjusting to all of that. But so we got the dog.
It's good.
But yeah, so it was adjusting to that, you know, and making sure that we were fostering all the relationships so that we could, you know, eventually get to a point where it was really healthy all around. And honestly, like, have you seen them? They're beautiful. Like, I lucked out pretty good.
Yes. Yeah. I can tell you all lucked out. Like, yeah, the union here is beautiful.
It's interesting because we've been interviewing throuples all over the country for the last 2-3 weeks now. And the one, you know, several things the same things keep coming up. One,
I see it too.
Yeah, chemistry. Yep. And it's always, we met and then I moved in 2 weeks later.
Whirlwind. Yeah.
Whirlwind romance. And then I grew up in a conservative Christian background.
I didn't know this was an option.
And it was COVID. And, it's like
and also I see the long term and the stability of the original couple.
Yes.
That seems to be a thing also.
Yeah,
like
very solid.
Yeah, solid relationship.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Yeah, there's a pattern. Yep.
Yes. Yep. But you guys are a little more unique in that you already knew that you were wanting a throuple starting out.
Yeah,
like
it's not
that's
accidental.
how Josh and I were when we met Liv as well. And yeah, it seems like it's maybe even 50-50. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like it's less common for a couple to be intentionally seeking. Yeah.
Well, and I think that also really ends up resulting in some of those bad situations, right? In my first relationship, when we really did just fall into it and it wasn't intentional and we moved in together and there was still so many things that when we were talking about like inequalities or inequities, it was very like, you know, I didn't ever sleep in the middle of the bed or like just things that, you know, whenever you look at in retrospect, you're like, okay, like we really should have done this differently. And so I think that, you know, and obviously some people get to a point where they make it work and it turns out beautifully. But I do think that was something that was a really good kind of stepping stone, like to start with, is everyone kind of came into this knowing like, this is what we want. Like, this is the type of relationship style that we want. And then, you know, being able to put the intention behind it and have some of that education beforehand. So it wasn't so, you know, messy.
Right. So speaking about sleeping arrangements, because this is this is my thing. Like
your pet peeve.
My thing. Do you guys sleep together all the time? All three of you?
Yes.
And who sleeps in the middle?
When we're all together.
Who is the one that sleeps in the middle?
You guys trade off.
Okay, so whenever you sleep in the middle, ladies, where do you keep your things? Your phone, your water bottle, or I have a lot of things, and I'm always like going around in circles. And I sit down because I'm the one sleeping in the middle. I'm getting in bed later than everyone else because I keep needing things, and it's hard. Where do you keep your things?
We have a shelf on the back of our bed that's like this wide. So like things sit up there, but then there's a windowsill that's probably about that wide behind it. So we're able to like put water, phone, chapstick, like whatever's needed so that the middle person can just be like,
Nice.
Yeah. I can feel
Nice.
jealousy from across the bar.
The thing is that our bed has this very luxurious looking, beautiful, how do you call that? The
Velvet
yeah.
backing.
So we can't really put anything on the back wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super
And
sexy,
it's
but
pretty
not very
tall.
useful.
Like you'd have
Not
to
practical.
sit completely up to like reach
Yeah.
anything up.
And I end up
We've done
sleeping
that
with
before. We
everything.
put
I end up sleeping with everything on my pillow.
Yeah, you put
What's that,
something
Aaron?
up there.
Yeah. I was just gonna say we've done that before, like tall beds where you try and put a water bottle up there, and then all of a sudden it comes flying
Crashes
down.
down.
Oh, yeah.
That's
No.
danger.
Yeah.
it's a risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the blanket situation? One large comforter or?
Well, yes, we have a large comforter or large sheet, and depending on whether it's winter or summer, but the middle person has to, well, actually both Kasey and I have 2 extra blankets. So especially the middle person, we say you have to throw a leg out or throw a limb out,
Uh-huh.
boiling and roasting to death. Then you can have a little sheet over so you still can stay covered, but otherwise, yeah, you're dying.
We have another triad friends that I think she took a blanket and like made a zipper in the middle of it so she could stick her leg out of the blanket.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, we resorted to just 3 separate. So we have 3 extra long twin comforters. Like that was our.
We all sleep at different temperatures, so it's like so she has 3 blankets, she has 2. I have
Make
nothing.
it like that.
Yeah,
Like do you like put the 3 comforters?
yeah, it's not very pretty, but
Yeah.
it
And
works.
it kind of, when you want to,
Functional.
when you
Yeah.
want to snuggle, you have to like get through all the blankets, and it's tricky, and then you don't know whose blanket is which because we should have gotten different colors.
For sure.
I
That would have been
realized.
smart. Hindsight.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I have this vision now of like your ornate like velvet headboard and like just the 3
Yeah.
comforters.
So those all disappear. There's like a storage thing
Yeah.
at the end of the bed, and then we put a comforter that's just for looks, even though
Yes,
no one
during
ever
the
sees
day.
our bed
Yeah.
for some reason.
I'm just realizing our sleeping situation is very complicated.
It is it's a
'Cause
process.
we have
every
2
day.
bedrooms. Like I have a bedroom and Shar has a bedroom, and we end up changing the bedrooms. So we carry comforters and pillows from side to side.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to complicate things.
It's also been an evolution of the relationship. Yeah, when we first moved into the house, Liv and I were
Yeah, we were a
V
dynamic.
So, yeah. So now that it's actually a throuple, it's transformed a little bit.
Can I ask
Yes.
how that evolved for you guys? What changed or how that?
I think a lot of it was just me being honest first with myself of what I wanted out of our relationship. I mean, much like you guys were talking about, like when Josh and I first got married, that was the only option. Like it took a long time for me to even be honest with myself that I was bisexual. Like even after we're having these 3-ways and they're super fun, I'm like, yeah, I'm bi-comfortable. And Josh is like, yeah, honey, I see you. Like, I think it's a little bit more than comfortable here. So I finally acknowledged that. And then we met Liv and I saw their connection. I was like, wow, this is beautiful. Like I totally. I considered her a life partner, but it wasn't like, I wasn't being honest with myself that I wanted more than just like roommates and loving, mutually loving Josh. And then eventually, once I was finally honest with myself, got the guts to like be honest with them, and you're like, all right, if you're on board with this,
I was.
yes, yeah. And I think she was wanting it probably a lot sooner than.
Oh yeah, I wanted
was.
it from the very beginning. I expected it, and we didn't really go that way. And I just, I didn't push anything. And when it finally happened, I was very happy with it.
And then I got polybombed.
Yes.
How
Not
long have the 3 of you been together?
Almost 3 years now, I think.
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're a younger relationship than you guys are.
yes, but very similar. Where it was like
Yes,
when you know, it's like
Yeah. You guys have been quite the inspiration. Like we're watching your TikTok videos,
know.
like the proposal video, unbelievable. Then we watched you guys choreorated dance.
The choreographed
Yeah, choreographed dance on
Incredible.
What is that
Yes.
movie again? I forgot that.
That was
Ronnie and Michelle,
Romy
right?
and Michelle's
Romy.
high school
Okay, there you go.
reunion.
I love the movie.
Where
What
you
a great
guys
idea.
set the bar very high.
Yes.
How are the Throuples going to get that level?
So awesome.
It was so funny. We can talk about these in separate parts, the proposal, but for that specifically, because obviously we had the proposal, we knew we were going to do this ceremony, and then we were talking about it because we were like, well, we don't want to do like just a regular dance, and we were like, what's the best 3-person dance you can think of? I think like Rachael asked that, and I was like, Romeo Michelle's high school reunion, and they were like, I don't know what that is, and I was like, cool, let's go watch it. And we did it, and it was like, okay, yeah, we can do this, because it's not the most complicated moves, and it's kind of it's like pretty goofy.
Nor
But-
were we very good dancers, so it was helpful to have like direction on what we should do. Anyways.
We practiced so much.
It came through for sure. That
Yeah.
was, it was beautiful. So impressive.
One of the most fun things about a relationship like this, because in almost 40 years, I would have never done anything like that with Aaron, neither one of us. You bring a Kasey into the mix and shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
I love it.
That you never knew. And, like,
Yeah, the escape room
started a whole brand new
proposal.
life
That was
over
something
again.
else too. We love escape rooms. That was the first date we all did together, the 3 of us. And then that's where it kind of stood out too, because we beat this really hard escape room, just the 3 of us. And we all think so differently. It was like, Liv knew so much about art and things that we were like, what? She's like, oh, that's Michelangelo. That's Leonardo. That's, all this art that was part of the clues we needed. It's like, we solved the thing, got told a little side up. Like now we do them all the time. We love
Yeah.
traveling around and
Yeah.
doing escape rooms.
It was, yeah, they did a fantastic job with the escape room proposal. And I will say, like, at that point, we've been together for 2.5 years or something along those lines. 3, I don't know. It hadn't. But we had been together for a while, and I was like, and we had talked about, like, for me, I was still, I didn't want to give up just because I'm in a non-traditional relationship, I didn't want to give up some of those traditions that like I was excited about growing up or just kind of getting into it. And so I was like, yeah, I would really like to be proposed to. But then I thought for sure that I would know, because I was like, well, I'm not just going to go get my nails done, or like, I'm not going to like dress up randomly. And the way that they did it, it was the day before Rachel's birthday. And so we went to this escape room, and it was for Rachel's birthday. And like the week before, Rachel's like, I want to get my nails done for my birthday. You want to come and get your nails done? And I was like, yeah, like I'll get my nails done. And so all of this, and then it was like wearing a dress to an escape room. And I was like, if that's what Rachael wants for her birthday, like
That is so smart.
I love it.
And then, yeah, we got to the very last clue, and they coordinated with the escape room, and so they had the ring and everything hidden in the last like drawer that popped out, and it was. And I'm very competitive, so we got there, and I'm like, okay, like cool, go open this room. And then I looked down, and I was like,
She missed
What-
all of the
what
roses,
is-
the
yeah.
ring.
She's on the next clue. She didn't even see the ring.
That's competitive.
Priorities.
Yeah.
That's
I
so
was
awesome.
actually wondering if you guys, what if you wouldn't have finished the escape room? What if you wouldn't have gotten to the ring?
It was
The-
rigged. It was totally
That's why
rigged.
I was wondering. Did you guys knew already how to do it, or like did you risk it?
Nice.
No, but they knew they were going to give us enough of the clues or hints or figure out.
Okay.
We didn't need them. We also did good, and we survived on our own. But no, they were going to make sure that she opened
The
them
most
up.
nervous person that day was the lady at the escape room.
she did so well. Too.
We go in, and she's so quiet, and Casey's like, "What's wrong with this lady?" She's not very nice. And she was super nervous,
Oh.
but she was awesome.
But
And she decorated the whole lobby too. So it's like she put us in the room. She was there by herself. She was monitoring to make sure that we were making it through and giving us like the hints when we needed it. But then also like putting up banners and
Wow.
and like all of this other stuff. So it was crazy. Yeah. But they
That's
were
amazing.
amazing. And we had a few friends with us too. A couple friend of ours. They also have a photography and videography business. They came with like their bags, and I was just like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, I love
For
it.
Rachel's birthday.
That is so great. Oh my gosh.
I want to know more about the wedding. Like everything you want to tell us. It's so exciting.
It was beautiful. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it was a traditional wedding.
Yep.
Like you might see or assume. We walked down the aisle, except that there were 2 brides instead.
Yeah, I saw the videos. And did you guys have the same dress, or was it similar? I know you had the same shoes, right?
Shopped together. We had
Yeah.
the same shoes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we shopped together to make sure that they would complement each other. But we also did the first reveal to Aaron together. But
Mhm.
he got that part again with Kasey, obviously, and me for the second time.
It was really cool. Like we call it the first wedding when Rachel and I got married.
Uh-huh.
You know, like lessons learned that you do and don't want to do.
Mhm.
Nice to do
And
it again.
yeah, and like this time we're just going to do all inclusive and just go to the beach because the beach is our thing. And it's really nice when you don't have to worry about a flower vendor and a cake vendor and this and that. Like they do
Yeah.
everything.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah. And it was interesting. We chose Puerto Vallarta because that's where we used to live and it's kind of dear to our heart and it's a cool place. But the hotel itself, the coordinator, she was awesome. She's like, I've never heard of a 3-person wedding, but we'll figure it out and it's going to be great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they
awesome.
were fantastic, the
Mhm.
whole thing. And it was nice because we obviously invited all of our family, all of our friends, really did the whole thing. Yeah, just like you would do for a regular,
Mhm.
monogamous wedding. And all of our families came down, all of our friends came down. Like it was just the most like wonderful celebration of love. And it's like, but I mean, to travel to Mexico and to stay at an all-inclusive resort for several days, it's like no small feat. And no one even batted an eye of like, well, it's not even legal. So like, why would I do that? It was,
Yeah.
granted, we have fantastic friends and family. So I think that obviously really helps that everyone was just like, yeah, we're going to Mexico. We're going to go do this ceremony on the beach. It's going to be amazing. So
The unique part of the ceremony, Aaron's brother was the officiant and did a little bit of sort of education and advocacy around polyamory and why this was so important from a commitment and dedication standpoint more than the legal part
Yeah.
of it. And a lot of the people, even though they've always been supportive and part of our life in the last 4.5 years, I think said they finally got it or sort of understood the different dynamics in the 4 different relationships and how much effort, we put into cultivating these different relationships. And I thought that was pretty cool experience.
and the way we did our vows is
It was long.
it what you go into it and you're like, oh, we only need a couple of minutes. And then by the time you get to it, you're like, oh, well, my vows for Rachel are 3 minutes and then for Aaron are 3 minutes. And you
That's
put that all
12
together
minutes.
and you have 20 minutes of vows. But we did it separately to where one person did vows to one partner and then the other partner. And then like, I kind of brought it back together and was like, yeah, this is us as a whole unit. And then you obviously multiply that by 3. But I think that was, to Rachel's point, it was cool for our friends and family to really hear how we interact with the individual partners as well. And like, the things that Aaron and I share in common or Rachel and I share in common that, isn't necessarily shared by the other partner. I think that those vows were really like that moment for people to see like, oh, it's not just 3 of them all the time. Like you can really see the differentiation between the relationships.
That's beautiful. I love that. And then you guys have that full ceremony online, don't you? Did I hear that right? Is it on Facebook,
Oh, yeah,
Instagram?
we live streamed it. Yeah.
Live on Facebook. Triad
Awesome.
and True. Yep. And
Yeah.
go back and definitely watch it.
And the
Yeah.
video's coming, I think, next week.
I was going to say, and then we're getting our official wedding video like anytime now. So we're very excited.
Yeah.
At least
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
I know. I watched your guys' TikTok on trying to find a website for your wedding. And that's like something I wouldn't have even thought about. But watching, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense that would be something challenging.
Yeah, all
So
the things
thank you-
you discovered.
thank you for sharing that.
It's like partner A, partner B. And
Yeah.
you're like, what about partner C?
Right.
Like,
Interesting. Yep.
And
Yeah.
it's like the things that are hard embedded into those websites where it's like the monograms of
Right.
like, oh, the singular last name and then this person's first name and this person's first name. And you're like, that doesn't work for us.
Yeah. So when you guys came out to your family and friends, was it an easy thing to do? Did you encounter any challenges? Anybody that was not acceptant?
The best way that we've sort of answered this question to everyone else is, I think at the end of the day, there was a lot of fear. So as much as we thought some people were going to be totally supportive and excited, the reactions were very surprising and not always that way, especially at the beginning. Other people, I'll just give a shout out to my religious and conservative mom, has been one of the most supportive, even though she doesn't get it and doesn't necessarily, I don't even say like it. She just can't comprehend it. She's been very, very supportive. Someone thought Aaron was running off with the younger model. Someone thought I was really lesbian and leaving Aaron after all these years. Someone thought she was going to come destroy our marriage. I mean, all of these things that at the end of the day, because we dropped the bomb, I mean, literally, we had met Kasey and 12 days later told them we're moving back from another country to the United States and I'm bisexual and we're going to do this for a relationship, was just like,
It was a lot.
It was a lot for people.
Yeah.
And so we give them a lot of grace and compassion for any reactions that they had early on. And I think with time and just seeing us and seeing that we have obviously been very consistent and no one's going anywhere and we're building this life. And then obviously having the ceremony, a lot of those fears and concerns have been alleviated and now we're fine.
And I would also say like being more open has made things better. At the beginning, there's still this like aura of secrecy that kind of makes things worse in some ways. So when you say like the TikTok videos are fun and whimsical and this and that, I think it actually helps normalize when our families can see, or other people that we may meet, to see that, hey, it's just normal BS that we all go through, just 50% more challenging.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or more fun.
Yeah. More fun.
Right. Yeah. But for a long time, Kasey was our roommate. And I mean, we're hiding behind these stories. And then
I was the best roommate.
Right.
Roommate with benefits.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing. It's like, because they moved back from Mexico and they moved into my like little townhouse that I owned, which was also funny because it was like the homewrecker, like gold digger, but I had them move into my house. Like it was like, okay. But then, you know, they moved in and it was definitely like, why is this married couple moving in with you? And it's like, oh, well, you know, it's just like to help them be closer to their family. And it helps me with rent and like all of these things that you're like trying to put out to people. And we ended up obviously all telling our close family, but really being public on like social media or to friends or whatever. It was like, oh yeah, like I have the best roommates ever. And that felt very stifling. Like it really is like you're constantly having to think of like, what does this person know? Or have I told this person about this? Or and eventually it just gets to the point where you can't keep it straight anymore. And so you're like, we're just going to do it, rip off the Band-Aid. Whoever stays around, great. If people don't, great. And I will say I've distanced myself from a lot of my extended family because of harsh comments and things like that. Obviously, shout out to my Missouri family. They're not great. And so I don't interact with them. I don't associate with them anymore. And, but obviously my immediate family and all of our immediate families we're still really, really close to. And so it's definitely been like that transition. But once you start choosing to live fully honestly, you really see like who's going to be supportive and who's going to, you know, be in your corner.
That's right. Who likes you for you and not for what they want you to be. Yes.
I really appreciated the transparency that you guys showed in that video that where you were talking about how even you, like, I mean, Rachael, like you're like a doctor that specializes in non-monogamy coaching. And you guys were talking about how it's even uncomfortable for you sometimes to call each other wife or like talk to other people and like be transparent with, I have a husband and a wife. And just those social conditionings are so hard to like to break down. So I really appreciated your honesty with that. Like, all right, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. We're all going to have like sticking points just from being raised in this mononormative culture and purity culture. And
have to recognize it.
Yeah.
Right. And just acknowledge it. It's okay. Don't judge yourself. Don't blame yourself. Just what do you have to do to keep chipping away at it so it becomes more certain of who you want to be today.
And there's still so much stigma too, or just like lack of awareness that, man, it's like as much as you try to be completely open all the time, it's still like, I mean, you know, I work anymore. I think everyone I work with knows, but when you're meeting new people or whatever, it's like, how honest are you that like, do I just want to have this conversation and like get my work done? Or do I want to mention my partners and my wife and my husband and then have to like, it's like you're basically like signing up for like this. Well, now you have to elaborate because people are going to be like,
Right.
excuse me.
After you spend your time all educating them on polyamory and
yeah. And so in that regard, it's like, I feel like you still have moments where it's like, we're just going to not say anything
Yeah.
because it's easier, more comfortable. So, but obviously, hopefully doing things like this and being out there and being present, educating people, it's going to continue over the next several years to be more comfortable to be open.
Yeah, definitely. Erin, what's it like for you? Like, do you notice any, I guess, judgment from people if you tell them you have to talk to your wives or, whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of the normative, kind of dialogue of it's always, and Rachel always is the one that kind of replies to these. It's like, oh, the lucky guy, right?
Yeah.
You get the lucky guy comments and that sort of thing. That's pretty, I guess, probably the one comment that we get the most of, at least on my side.
Erin, is there anything that drives you just a little bit nuts sometimes about being outnumbered by two women? Don't look at them. Just look at me.
Oh, there are three ladies in the house. The dog's female. The estrogen is definitely outweighing me, but no, I think that they both do a really good job of kind of recognizing like it can't all be hair products and sometimes.
What? Josh has
So
more
really
hair
good,
products
really
than
good
I
job.
do.
Oh, use my man card. Come on.
I think honestly, even outnumbered by two women, gender stuff or whatever, the three-person dynamic makes everything really interesting and almost more fair. So when it was just Erin and I, one of us could just sort of overpower whoever's going to be more stubborn or hold on their foot or my way, your way, right?
Yep.
You always automatically have sort of a tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Whether you wanted to, someone's going to side not because they're taking sides, but they also have a belief, and it's, are you the one actually being the asshole? And you have to sort of check yourself. And
we talk about it all the time. You have a witness.
Yeah, you don't say the same thing you'd say
I know.
there's two people.
Yeah. People talk. Yeah. That's the perception is like, oh, you probably have people teaming up against one all the time. It's like, no, more you just have a mediator. Yeah. Yeah.
And really, whenever you get called out, and as Rachel said, we call it the asshole test, and like everyone's the asshole at some point. And whenever you have two people being like, no, you're being the asshole, you like, eat your
maybe
humble pie. And you're like,
Yes.
fine.
Yes.
I guess.
Whatever. I'm out of here.
Totally. Yeah. And in our dynamic, it works really well. I think they alluded to it earlier in that Rachel and I are like very different. She hates sports. I love sports. I hate rom-coms. She loves rom-coms, stuff like that. And with Kasey, like the dynamic works really well for us because it's like right in between. So she watches sports with me. She watches chick flicks with Rachel.
That's
Perfect.
awesome.
It's just kind of,
And they cook weird food together.
Perfect.
Enjoy. And your girl goes and gets pizza.
That's
For
awesome.
communication, do you guys have anything set up like weekly check-ins or anything like that?
We definitely did early on, and we literally I think it was a Wednesday book club, and we would have the check-ins. We would read books, book clubs, right? We would listen to podcasts. We did all these relationship building activities, and we did that for a solid 2+ years. Then we were in therapy for a while before our ceremony. We'd have check-ins after sort of therapy sessions. It's died off more or less probably naturally because they're not as needed.
Right.
But if there's something that we all just need to have some time and space, we'll put one on the calendar, or we'll do them now more sporadically. But that was a big part of the relationship, especially early on.
and
And I think-
communication in general.
Yes.
And
Just-
just when it's
I was gonna say, and I think something about that really like holding that space. I have really bad anxiety. And so I found that like anytime we would like have these like really serious relationship discussions, I found myself getting really anxious and like, oh, like what are they gonna say? Are they gonna but I think like having that consistency, it becomes more comfortable. And then just having that every week, we knew it was at the same time you could hold space for that. And then even after that, and not necessarily having that like weekly calendar, like we're going to do it, it still just makes it way more easier because we're all comfortable with it, that we know like, okay, we're going to have this, serious relationship discussion. And it is always, it's respectful, it's productive. We get to a place where, it's positive. And so we communicate and communicate and communicate,
Yep.
over communicate. And I think that that's obviously something that is the key to this type of relationship.
You mentioned therapy that you guys were doing early on, and that's something ever since we started this podcast, listeners were always right into us complaining that they couldn't find therapists or relationship coaches that specialized in throuples. They always told us like, well, just stop being a throuple or don't practice polyamory. That'll fix your problem kind of thing.
Or do hierarchies, like you need to have the dyad as a priority.
So just recently, Shar launched a website called throupletherapy.com, and it's just going to be a directory of therapists and relationship coaches that specialize in throuples. So we're really excited about sending that out. So because it's been a thing back and forth, and it's like, we're talking to relationship coaches. We met Allie Hendry. We had her as a guest recently, and she explained that therapy is for the past, right? Is that what she said?
For us.
Dealing with your past.
She educated us on the difference between therapy and coaching.
And coaching's for now and the future.
Yes.
So we thought that was very interesting.
Yes.
But we'd love to have you on there if you'd like to be on our directory.
That would be awesome. And I think that's fantastic that you guys are doing that. And it is, everything you're saying is so true. And even if someone doesn't try to go or convince you back to a monogamous relationship or somehow imply that polyamory is wrong, just even have to educate your therapist and explain and get them up to speed just takes time, and it's a waste of your money. So to have someone that just gets it and knows the lingo is it's just awesome that you guys are doing that.
Have you worked with any throuples yet?
Oh yeah, they're my favorite. I have all kinds of different relationship dynamics, but of course just naturally love the triads. Yeah.
That's awesome. And do you work with remote clients as well? Like, do you work with people all over?
It's probably all remote ever since COVID.
I wanted to assume, but I wanted to clarify just for our listeners. Yeah.
You could have
wherever
pajama
you
bottoms
are
on and slippers.
Yes.
And we'll never know.
Right.
You are.
I know.
Yeah.
There are good things that came out of
coaching. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, there are good things that came out of COVID. No, yeah. What were you saying?
For sure. And it makes it accessible to everyone much more easily, for sure. That's the other difference between therapy and coaching. You do have to be licensed in whatever state or whatever in the world, or international, to provide medical intervention or clinical, diagnosis and intervention. So I'm only licensed from a psychotherapy standpoint in Colorado, Florida, and Texas. But when we're talking this and relationship dynamics and teaching educational skills and communication skills and conflict resolution, all these things that are going to be inherent to making a healthy, successful relationship, all in the purview of coaching. And then, it can be.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
Awesome. So are there any resources that you see this like a need for, like whether it's books or just community, more throuple specializing therapists? Like, is there anything that you see that the throuple community as a whole at large is needing more of?
All of the above.
I
mean, you just think about how many things are out there for any two-person relationship. We just need more and more and more. So it's just as prevalent and just available, and people don't have to even know that there's something specific that they have to be looking for. I also think in general, I was just having these conversations with a couple of clients the other day of, as much as the polyamory community is wonderful and great, it's stigmatizing and discriminating even within its discriminated and stigmatized group, where throuples and triads get such a negative connotation a lot of times. And so even, I don't know, a broader education-based understanding of how to do this successfully, ethically, consensually, and almost to be able to have an emotional boundary or wall up against people that theoretically should also be supporting you, because I think some of the other Facebook groups and people join and then they feel shamed and made to feel bad, and they're already in a place, right? So something around that, and how we have more groups like the Ethical Triad Collective or the throuple triad groups on Facebook that really are supportive, if still done ethically. I get all of that piece of it, but there's a way to approach this, and it doesn't have to be as hard, or this is the most, sophisticated type of polydynamic. I don't believe any of that. I just think there has to be more places to go and more role models. So much of it, even just media, just more representation in real life, whether it's through social media or films or TV or books. That
the number of people that we've had reach out to our Instagram or TikTok or whatever of just being like, and this was definitely early on. I remember like seeing the comments of people being like, oh my gosh, I'm in this like exact same style of relationship. I've never seen someone else who's doing it like, and like, I feel like especially, and I feel like it's like poly in general is coming out of the shadows, and especially over the last few years, but it's like, for people who you almost feel like you're on an island and you're the only person in the whole world that's doing this type of relationship. And then whenever you do come across, some of those other presence, whether it be on social media or whatever, to actually see that is really special. And it makes you feel not so alone, not so isolated. I feel like every time I connect with someone like on a group on social media and they're like, oh, I'm in this type of relationship, I'm like, send me a friend request. Like, let's chat. I love to like connect with people who, can understand and kind of sympathize with all the same types of challenges and wins and all of that.
Awesome.
I don't know if you guys know about our Throuple Talk Connection Hub group on Facebook, but it's throuples are joining it, and it's growing really fast. It's really fun to see. We do Throuple Thursdays, and everybody posts pictures of what they've been doing that week as a throuple. And it's been a lot of fun just connecting with all these other throuples around the country and seeing what they do.
Around the world.
Around the
all
world.
over.
Yeah. So it's just been a lot of fun to see what these guys are up to and see the community growing. And it's a lot, it's a lot bigger than what we thought it was. A lot of people.
That was a pleasant surprise because before we started the podcast, we were thinking we are the only ones. There's nobody like us, just the live-in throuples that are committed to each other. And we were not right. There's a lot of us out there.
There's a lot, more than we thought.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing I think for me. That it was like the thing that was missing was like a sense of community. I mean, not that I have anything against people who choose monogamy, but there's just a different dynamic that unless you're in a throuple, you just don't understand it. So so we're excited.
It's also crazy to hear the stories of the people who are like, oh yeah, I've been with my partners for 24 years.
Yeah.
And they've literally lived in secrecy for the first 20 of those that they've been together in the same dynamic that we are. But they've just kept it hidden. Yeah. And so I think that that's kind of a really exciting thing about right now and where we kind of are in history is that people are coming out of the woodwork and you are able to kind of look around and see people that look like you, that have your same type of relationship. It's not all like smoke and mirrors and, it's not all as stigmatized. And I think that that's important for people to see other people and relationships that they can, relate to.
Exactly. Our mission here is to normalize alternative relationship structures. And the best way we could do that is to win the hearts and minds of our neighbors and family and friends. And so that's why we've been doing this, showcasing throuples that have healthy relationships, such as yourselves. So we can show this is a normal way of living. We're not the strange weirdos that you might think we were. We were on, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, we were on British news channel. They were interviewing us a couple weeks ago, and they asked us the most absurd questions while we were on there. We were really caught off guard. Like, you guys are just sexual deviants, right? And so how does throuple swapping work? You find other throuples and you swap. What are you talking about? Where did you get your news from?
Yeah, we definitely need to educate people. I noticed.
Right. You think of threesome and that's how you go. It's just a sex. It's
right.
They can't possibly be in a relationship and love each other.
Right. Yeah. I know you guys, you moved to Florida to be in a more LGBTQ friendly community. Is this something you did on purpose? Is it something that you wanted to be in a place where you're more accepted or?
So you have to remember we came from Colorado, and Colorado in general is a very open, accepting, loving, wonderful place in general. And then whenever people hear like, oh, you moved to Florida, and let's be real, it's not necessarily that same type of,
challenges
idea.
you guys must have over where you live.
Uh-huh.
Same ones here,
Yeah.
right?
But we actually we moved to Florida because Rachel was done with the winters. They moved from Mexico to come back to Colorado to be with me. And after we were together for 2 years, Rachel was like, I gotta get back.
I love you, but I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was like, I'm going, you guys can come with me. But like, and so we looked at a bunch of different states and communities, and really decided on the East Coast versus the West Coast because like it just cost and expense. And
Right.
like if you want to live somewhere that's like by the beach, California is extremely expensive and we're not about that life. And so, but then like looking at the different places that we had available kind of on the east side of the country. I mean, if you're looking at some of the states that are, have the beautiful beaches, Alabama, Mississippi, like those really aren't the type of communities that are going to be open to all of this.
Yes.
So we did a lot of research and looked at a lot of the different communities, and we actually found St. Petersburg and really did a lot of research on, okay, this is a very safe and, accepting community.
Right.
And then we came down and saw it, and that's how we really ended up in our neighborhood. It's called Gulfport, Florida. It's amazing. And
Literally rainbow flags everywhere.
Nice.
And-
Awesome.
But it's an anomaly when you're talking about Florida as a whole. I mean,
Okay.
obviously there are lots of pockets in Orlando or obviously down in Miami, things like that. But for the most part, like you go a little too far outside of St. Petersburg or Tampa and you're like, oh no, we're still in Florida. Like don't hold my hand, don't kiss me. Like we aren't here to try to make anyone upset. But it was very pointed and selective in where we chose to be. That was still tropical.
Right. I feel like Houston is very open-minded and we've never had any problems. But like us two, we moved specifically to start a new life together.
We're California refugees. Yeah, we couldn't afford it there anymore. So
But we lived in a very conservative area of Northern California too. So there was a lot of, a lot of stigma that I didn't always feel comfortable going out as a throuple and being like having PDA or whatever in public.
what is your favorite thing about being a throuple?
Our tagline is
You've got this. I've got it. Don't worry. It's always a party, never a crowd.
Nice.
But basically, I think that like it's just really never a dull time. You always have someone to talk to. If you don't want to talk, you can go escape and not feel the pressure of having to be there for the other person.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just exciting and I don't
And
know.
it is. It elevates. I feel like I at least for me, getting into this type of relationship in a very serious way, I feel like it makes you a better person because you have two partners and you're always like pushing each other. It's a lot harder to be stagnant when you have that kind of extra person. And so I think that, and it's just more accountability, kind of as Rachael had said, when it's like one person versus one person, then, you could get to a point where you never have any kind of resolution. But with three people and three different opinions, three different, dynamics, it really does kind of push you to be like the best version of yourself.
Yep.
And so I love that.
Nice. In closing, what advice would you guys give to a new throuple just starting out?
Just seek as much support and education and do the talking, get help if you need it, whether it's from mentors or role models or therapists or coaches. It will be challenging, anticipate challenges, but they are so worth it. Don't do it alone. Really try not to just go into it blindly and hope that it works.
Right. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been a very good talk. We really appreciate it. It was wonderful to meet you and know all these things about you.
Yes,
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Likewise.
Thank you for sharing your story and thank you for being so public with your journey on social media. It's awesome.
And helping to normalize this.
Yes.
If you like our episodes, please don't forget to subscribe and share them with people just like yourselves.
Please leave a comment and let us know what you thought of this episode.
And we'll see you next time.